to date, Marc Puckett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. This transparency report that's before you tonight is put before you at Council's request. And this report is intended to demonstrate the town's intention on pursuing transparency in the town's acquisition efforts of Ranchos. The report was, as requested, was submitted to Town Council, and it identifies all of the costs incurred through to date, but would be through June 30th, as we'll see in a moment. The report itself, there are copies and copies of the PowerPoint presentation and the document itself available as you enter the council chambers for those that would like a copy. And the report itself will be presented to council as on a receive and file basis monthly. It will include all categories of expense related to the town's acquisition efforts. And those categories of expense include attorney costs, appraisal costs, other consultant costs, and public information costs. It also will include a list of all of the public records requests that the town has received related to Ranchos with associated cost estimates for their preparation. And it will also include an estimate of possible future costs as the town pursues acquisition. The document as presented is presented in the form of a project budget. Project budget as submitted is intended to cover a multi-year time horizon, as this document does. It includes expenditures incurred from fiscal year 2011 through the fiscal year 2015. And as you can see within the body of the document, there's a space for year-to-date expenditures and current month expenditures. However, we have not paid any invoices during the month of July, so the information as it's presented is through June 30th, 2015. Again, this current report covers through July 31, 2015, and as I just noted, there's no payment of invoices during the month of July, so the financial information covers the end of the prior fiscal year. Then what I'd like to do is review some of the categories of expenditures included within the document, with the first being the attorney's costs. And the attorney's costs directly related to the acquisition amounted to $370,357 to date. There are other related attorney costs that the town has incurred related to Ranchos, and those costs were for fighting rate cases and advice letters, recycled water issues, where the town is attempting to use recycled waters, and we've been threatened with a lawsuit by Ranchos for pursuing the use of recycled water. Public records requests that have been submitted related to Ranchos that have been reviewed by our attorney. The acquisition of Yermo water system by Apple Valley Ranchos and the town's opposition to that effort. The town's opposition to the Carlisle merger of AVR into Carlisle, and then the town's opposition to the acquisition of the Park Water Company by Liberty Utilities. And also the JLAC audit, which is an audit that was commissioned by state of California of water rates in the high desert and the disparity of the water rates in the high desert from community to community. So focusing first on, as I've reported, the direct attorney costs related to the Ranchos acquisition at $370,000. The other related attorney costs that have been incurred amount to $728,851 related to each of these categories of expense. And I do want to note, I'll get to that in a moment, but the other related costs, just focusing first on the rate cases and advice letters. Just on the rate cases and advice letters, the town has spent $343,872 since 2011 fighting Apple Valley Ranchos rate increases and numerous advice letter filings affecting rates, and hiring consultants to analyze the accuracy of Apple Valley Ranchos claims that they put forward supporting those rate case filings and their water rate modeling process. To date, Apple Valley Ranchos has not released any similar information related to their legal bills. Related to recycled water, the town has spent $57,122 fighting for the right to use recycled water that has already been paid for by the town and its residents, and once that recycled water becomes available to the town. Ranchos has threatened to sue the town if the town attempts to use the recycled water without giving the water to Ranchos, allowing them to sell it back to the town and its residents. Related to public records requests, the town has spent $68,870 from the town attorney's office in reviewing 60 public records requests related to Ranchos, resulting in the provision of over 154,000 documents that the town has provided. The town, by the way, will also be making the same records requests to Ranchos, and I'm anxious to see what their response will be. Related to Yermo, the town has spent $29,610 fighting Apple Valley Ranchos' purchase of the Yermo water system. The initial repairs and upgrades needed to make the Yermo system fully functional was $7.7 million in initial capital improvements, which works out to almost $28,000 for each of Yermo's 278 active connections. Town believes that our residents will be stuck paying for some or all of the costs of repairing the Yermo water system. Again, another related to attorney costs related to the Carlisle merger and the Liberty merger, the town has spent $154,277 fighting the sale of Apple Valley Ranchos to the Carlisle Group, which is a Washington, D.C. based hedge fund. And then subsequently, the town has spent $59,412 fighting the sale of Apple Valley Ranchos to the Liberty Utilities firm, which is a Canadian firm, and that the finalization of that sale of that company is expected to occur any day. Liberty Utilities has stated to its investors that the California market is attractive because it has a favorable regulatory environment and provides opportunities to deploy capital at a guaranteed rate of return of 9.7%. So what the town has spent in attorney fees protecting you, the resident, a total of $728,851. As you can see, the majority of that cost has been related to the rate cases and advice letters, 47.2%. Related to the Carlisle merger and the Liberty merger, that's about another 30%. Review of public records requests from Ranchos related, another almost 10%. The Yermo water system, 4%. And the important thing about this chart, the most important thing to note is the $728,851 that the town has spent. If the acquisition process is successful, these expenditures would cease, and these dollars, these resources would be freed up in future budgets for other uses. So we would no longer have to fight rate case filings or advice letter filings by Ranchos, or respond to lawsuits for the use of recycled water, or fight the acquisition of Ranchos and the Park Water Company by international hedge funds or foreign companies. So again, in terms of looking at the direct acquisition costs, the total as reported on this month's report is $666,133. That relates to the direct attorney's costs of $370,357, the appraisal costs, $127,000, other consultant costs, and that's for the initial feasibility study as well as the 2011 study by Barb Wells. Public information costs, which includes the costs for the town's survey as well as our media relations consultants that the town has hired. So the town has spent a total of $666,000 in direct acquisition cost to date, pursuing the acquisition of Apple Valley Ranchos. And again, in terms of looking at those costs, 55.6% of those costs is attorney costs, the appraisal costs 19.1%, public information costs 17%. And again, these figures will change each month as this process proceeds. So looking at the public records request costs, to date, the public records request cost is $153,800, and that relates to the attorney's cost of $68,870, as reported previously, and staff costs of $84,965. Again, over 154,000 records have been provided in response to the 60 public records requests related to water-related matters. And again, I'm just providing examples of our latest. Right now, I'm in the process of processing 7 separate public records requests related to Ranchos. This one was provided by public records request from Mr. Al Rice. It amounts to about 400 documents in response to this request. This was another public records request by Mr. Al Rice, which is one banker's box containing over 3,600 documents. And this was a public records request that we were processing, which amounted to 22 banker's boxes containing over 45,000 records. So these are just examples of the records requests we have, and you know, these were 3 of the 7 that I currently have. So in looking at the estimate of possible future costs as we pursue acquisition, we've identified that as this process proceeds, that the town may expend as much as $3.2 million. To date, the town has expended $666,000, which means the amount unexpended in potential future costs of about $2.5 million, or about a little less than 80% of the identified project budget. That concludes my presentation. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Mr. Mayor?
Oh, go ahead, Barb.
I first of all want to thank you for this report. Initially, when I'd asked for this, I felt it's important for us to depict where the money's going in this journey. But even as a council member, it's quite sobering to see this. But what is most sobering to me are the public records requests. When you see those boxes.
Hey, Barb, I'm going to step out while you guys ask questions.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. But even more than that, as I look at this list of names, they're pretty much the same people over and over asking for all of these records, and that's eye-opening also. An L.D. and a D. Mueller, Mr. Rice, and excuse me? I just wonder, I mean, boxes and boxes and boxes. It just causes you to pause for a moment to see the necessity of that, although they certainly have the right to that information, but it is eye-opening. Also, I think that the cost that's imposed, that costs the town, is rather startling. You know, early on in my career as a council person, I had jockeyed for free, no cost to citizens to ask for records, and in a logical mind, you generally think it'll be a few pages or, you know, a couple of items, not reams and boxes and 100,000 pages. It's eye-opening. That's all I can say is, who is going to, what is the journey here, I guess? I think it would be nice to figure out a better way when you see what it's costing the town, and I'm not sure what that way might be. I'm fully in favor of anyone having access to our records because we are your business. The citizens that live here, it's your money and my money, but I'm just astounded. I really am at that number. I remember Miss Lee, all the boxes we saw, had filed some sort of lawsuit saying we weren't producing them quickly enough. Oh my goodness. And, you know, when you have to go back and go through those documents and copy them, is an awful lot of work. So I think the acquisition costs, the transparency that we're providing for our citizens or anyone that wants to see that, it's here. And I'm thankful for that. And I thank you very much for your hard work. That's it.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes, Councilman.
I think one of the things that's critical, and I thank you again, just as the Mayor Pro Tem and stuff, everything you've done here not only shows all the hard work that this town does to maintain what we're doing for the citizens, but the transparency. So thank you very much. One of the things I think is most important is slide number 7. I don't expect you to go back, but I'll just, because I know a lot of people have the handout. This town has been expending, and it's almost $350,000 since 2011, our town dollars on behalf of our citizens to reduce the rates asked for by the Ranchos Water Company. And we have been very successful over the years. And I wish I knew the amount of money that we've been already able to save our citizens by asking for the PUC to consider reductions in requested rate changes. I think it's critical. This isn't something that popped up 6 months ago. This isn't something that popped up a year ago. This is something that this town has been investing our citizens' money that we manage on behalf of the citizens of this community since 2011. And I wish I knew that number of how much we've been able to affect the request going to the PUC, and I don't, but I think it's critical that the people of this community understand that we've been doing this on their behalf for almost 5 years.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Is there Councilman Nassif?
I just, again, want to reiterate the thank you for the information. We've been looking forward to this, and we've been, of course, dissecting that in our own minds, but this helps quantify it. And along with Councilmember Bishop, I was interested to know, and I know we can't quantify it as how much money we've saved the community over the years, but I know on the other side that it seems like every percentage that we've been able to work with the PUC to reduce, you know, help save our community money, but then in turn it seems to come back in the form of an advice letter or a surcharge. So I don't know that we've gained any ground over the years or not, but we've certainly worked at it and tried to make that happen. So again, thank you, and I appreciate I know there's a lot of work to separate that and get that information out. Thanks.
Councilman Emick.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Mark, fantastic. Excellent job. Love the idea of the names and the requests. You know, it doesn't take too many brains to see what seems to be going on. I'm disappointed in those individuals, especially when they're multiple times. You know, you see their articles in the paper. You know, I have to go back. I just saw the Apple Valley Animal Shelter come up here in an extremely positive way. attacking an issue and taking care of it in a positive way. And I sit here and I constantly, meeting after meeting, and then hear outbursts in the crowd and all kinds of things to distract things that were going on by the same individuals that are causing us tons of money asking for record requests. It's a shame, you know, it's a shame. I'm really disappointed in those individuals. But I'm not disappointed in you, Mark. It's fantastic what you've got here. I look forward to every month seeing those records. I think the public will appreciate it. I think they'll now appreciate what we're really doing here. I think you can see the scope and how big the job is to get this done. And again, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Emick. For those of you who may not know, we have been challenged, and it's okay to think differently than we may, but we've been challenged by some that say we're hiding financial numbers. We've never hidden any numbers. We never will. And this is just an example how we are becoming, even you're helping us to be more transparent. You're helping us to do a better job on your behalf. So here you are. It's a lot of hard work, and I'm appreciative of it. And we'll see this financial page in our agenda packet each month that keeps all of us up to date on all money spent. And it is a moment to remember that this has been a long journey, as the town for many, many years has fought on our behalf to curtail rate increases. Long before any acquisition talk, this was just about getting the best deal for our citizens. And so it is a long journey that hasn't started this past few months. But I thank you very much. Are there any other questions from council?
No.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Puckett.
Thank you.
Okay. I will ask the mayor to come back. The mayor